Summer can be a bit of a slog. For us, it's often for some reason a rather busy time, and I'm sure we're not alone.
Well, you can beat the summertime sadness and the August angst and enhance your everyday with our excellent sponsor, Via Hemp. This is a company that crafts award-winning premium THC and THC-free gummies.
Each of these gummies is especially designed to cultivate a specific mood. Whether you're looking to get relaxed, get quality sleep, get creative, or just to get focused. If you're 21 or older, you can experience it for yourself and get 15% off your first order with our exclusive code MSheet at viahemp.com. That's VIIAHEMP.com.
I personally enjoyed their grapefruit flow state gummies. This CBG and CBD powerhouse really helped me tap into my productivity. Like, we have had an extremely busy summer, and I feel flow state got me over the finish line a few times when I was editing multiple episodes a day, digging through documents, and knocking out a bunch of interviews.
Via Hemp does not require a medical card, and it ships legally to all 50 states. It's also affordable, and even more so for Murder Sheet listeners who get a special deal.
If you're 21 and older, head to viahemp.com and use code MSheet to receive 15% off. That's VIIAHEMP.com and use code MSheet at checkout. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Via.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites, like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies, like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee for your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Getting the smile and confidence you've been dreaming about, all from the comfort of your home, isn't a total mystery with Byte clear aligners. Just don't be surprised if all your friends start asking, "What's your secret?" Begin by ordering your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95. Byte clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer flexible financing, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Content warning, this episode includes discussion of the murder of 2 children. So there was just another filing in the Richard Allen case that we feel is important enough to discuss with you pretty quickly. I will begin by saying there were a couple of filings in this case earlier today, which we actually discuss on an episode of Cheat Sheet, which is being released tomorrow. So this is about a filing that has happened since those filings. But again, I think it's a filing that is well worth our time to discuss and cover with you.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
My name is Anya Kane. I'm a journalist.
And I'm Kevin Greenlee. I'm an attorney.
And this is The Murder Sheet.
We're a true crime podcast focused on original reporting, interviews, and deep dives into murder cases. We're The Murder Sheet.
And this is The Delphi Murders. Contempt witnesses.
So, David Hennessy has filed with the court a list of additional witnesses. He may be calling in the contempt hearing on March 18th. He's also provided a pretty extensive list of exhibits he may be using in that hearing. And this offers us a pretty good look at the sort of defense they intend to make. And it almost seems like if we were all teenagers at one time in our life, and sometimes when you're accused of something, the easiest thing for a teenager to do is point at someone else and say, he did it too. And it seems, looking at this, that this is a he did it too defense. And we will get into that and explain what that means as we go along. I think the first thing to cover here is the list of witnesses. And there's going to be some names on this list that will be familiar to you.
Or maybe not if you're, not immersed in this mess in the way that some of us are.
The first witness is Stephen Wood.
So that is the real name of a person who goes online and calls themselves Skip Jansen. And they initially came onto our radar because he was a proponent of a theory accusing a young man who had been a witness on the trails that day of the homicides. So, kind of like a Reddit figure of like, very much on one side of things in terms of a theory, very vocal, without really having any information.
A couple of other witnesses on this list are Angela Sadlowski and Courtney Parsons. And you may recall we talked about Miss Sadlowski and Miss Parsons on an episode we released a few months ago. They're the people who run that Discord that has a lot of hateful, vile, sexist, violent language against others. I believe Courtney Parson posted a message at one point saying that Jason Blair should die.
Yeah. And so they very much are very virulently pro-defense. They sort of morphed out of a group that was committed to the theory that Ron Logan was some kind of criminal mastermind living in Carroll County, pulling the strings to prevent himself from being caught for the double homicide of Abby and Libby, but also got busted on a probation violation and, went to jail anyway. So it's not really a super coherent theory, but they're very into it.
And Miss Sadlowski is the licensed social worker who, among other things, hired a private investigator to surveil prosecutor Nick McClelland.
Or at least certainly claimed she did, and posted photos that appeared to be of McClelland at a high school basketball game. So all of these people are actually not from Indiana. I think Wood's from Florida, Sadlowski's from North Carolina, and
go ahead.
And Parsons is from Texas.
Here's somebody on the witness list who is from Indiana, and that is Julie Melvin.
Oh yeah, yes.
How do we
explain Julie? I don't know. I think maybe like Indiana nurse who became very invested, has some tenuous relationship with one of the victims' families, but has also dogged the victims' families online for a very long time in a way that many would maybe describe as harassment, and is just very involved in the case. These are all like these people who are in this kind of online world. When you get very online in the Delphi case, there are certain names that kind of pop up a lot. And so all of these are part of that kind of strange cast of characters. But I think most normal people who are not highly online in this space have no idea who we're talking about right now. So this is like a little refresher for you. You get to know about some of the weird online stuff that we've been aware of for a while, but frankly haven't cared enough to report about because it's stupid, mostly.
There's a name that's frankly, I don't know who this is, Teri Williams. Later on in the documents, it suggests that Teri Williams may have some sort of connection with the name Secret Keeper.
Jesus Christ.
Who knows? And then the final name is Matt Hoffman.
Okay, finally somebody who actually has a job in that's relevant to this case. This is a defense investigator. He is a former fire official from, I believe, Hamilton County, Indiana, and was working as a private investigator for the defense team. So he very much makes sense as far as, having something relevant to say for this case.
And with that said, let's start talking about some of the exhibits. And before we get into the exhibits, I think you're going to hear that a lot of the exhibits involve Gary Beaudette, a.k.a. Fig, a.k.a. Fig Solve. Let's talk about Mr. Beaudette.
Well, we certainly have to give at least a little bit of a caveat here, and
we do.
It certainly, when we're reporting on something like this and we have interactions or know some of the people involved, sometimes it makes sense before we talk about them to at least give you a sense of our dealings with them, so that we are acknowledging where we might have our own opinions or bias or whatnot.
And we certainly have some opinions about him. At one point, we had him on the program. I believe he's also been on True Crime Garage. Frankly, it was an error in judgment for us to have him on the show. Yeah,
he always struck us as maybe one of the more mature YouTubers. YouTube is a bad source for Delphi. It's a place that mostly treats it like it's a wrestling competition where people, you have a bunch of, people screaming into their cameras about this or that, and it's just like uninformed nonsense. He seemed better than maybe that class of YouTuber, but
he has a reputation within that community of being totally unable to keep a secret. If you tell anything to Fig, or I call him,
let's call adult Christian names. I'm sick of calling adults by these stupid little nicknames that they make up for themselves. I find it embarrassing, and I'm not doing it anymore.
If you tell something to Mr. Beaudette, he has a reputation as being someone who would spread that all over the place.
Like most people in the Delphi case online.
But even within that community, he has a reputation for having an unusual tendency to do that. And if he thinks he has a good relationship with someone important in the case, he's going to tell everybody else he can in order to make himself look better, in order to gratify his ego. He also is someone who tends to jump to conclusions. And we had an experience like that with him, where after the leak of the crime scene photos, he jumped to the conclusion that Anya and I had lied about it, and that we had some sort of connection to the leak other than what we had disclosed. And he went to the extent of telling other people this, including other podcasters and
colleagues in the industry,
basically trying to smear us with these people. And at this time, I don't think it's fair to say we had a lot of respect for him, but we were friendly with him, and he could have called us and we could have explained things to him. But instead, he is trying to smear us and blacken our names.
It's one of those things where people, the amount of unprofessionalism you encounter at every turn in the online community around this case is stunning. And people kind of, why don't you guys do this or that? And we don't trust anybody. That's why. We really don't. You can't because everybody, it's so transactional. And also there is all of this. And actually, this also speaks to Sadlowski and Parsons, because what Fig, I think, what Gary was to the prosecutor, they were to the defense. There's this people who are in states that are not Indiana, who have no journalism background, who have no journalism training seemingly, and who are just kind of basically trying to be instigators within the case, who then overstate their connection to one side and say me and Baldwin are, we're tight, or me and Nick, the prosecutor, are, messaging. And it's usually very one-sided, but it's clout. It's the monetary exchange in this community is clout. How important are you? Who are you talking to? What information can you then give your friends who are not as connected so you can seem really cool? And it all is just very ridiculous. It's embarrassing to watch sometimes, because people will fall over themselves with their little penny ante antics, of some scrap of information that they got third hand, and act like that is somehow impressive.
So with that said, let's talk about some of the exhibits. There's going to be an exhibit containing communications between Gary Beaudette, aka Fig, and prosecutor McClelland. I think it's fair to say that anyone who has much of an online presence in the Delphi community has probably seen some of these communications because, again, Mr. Beaudette is a person who shares everything. And at least based on things he was talking to us when we had a friendlier relationship with him, it seemed to me, and this could be incorrect, it seemed to me that it was more of a one-way street where he was sending stuff basically unsolicited to McClelland, and McClelland would reply with a line or two back, generally.
Which is not a leak, and that would be okay. I would compare that with, we mentioned the episode we did that dealt with the bizarre behavior of Sadlowski and Parsons. That was called The Unacceptable. We'll link to that in our show notes. But in that, one of their colleagues, a nurse from Michigan named Paul Mannion, sent a message seemingly to Andy Baldwin saying, like, I have information. And he got back a response that was friendly, and it was a bit long, but it was, when you really read it, it was sort of a form response, like, thanks for letting us know. You know, we'd like to get more information. Whether you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney, you're allowed to get information from other people and confirm that you've gotten the information and thank people. That's all okay. Where you run into problems, where you run into trouble is when you're giving information directly to that person and saying, hey, here's the scoop on, you know, like, what's going on with this. Then there's a problem.
There's going to be an exhibit containing communications from Mr. Beaudette about prosecutor McClelland. I'm not sure what exactly that would entail. I imagine what it entails. I imagine it's him going around bragging to people that he's talking to McClelland. Which, again, like, how embarrassing. And there's going to be an exhibit that involves another YouTuber, Anthony Greeno, an episode titled All Caps, Crime Nation, Delphi Murders. Watch and review. There's going to be also...
I'm sure that'll be a compelling intellectual affair.
Delphi After Dark host Rick Snay apparently appeared on True Crime Investigates, which I believe is Mr. Greeno's channel.
I was going to say, like, that could be, that just sounds like the most generic true crime show of all time.
An email from Andrew Baldwin to prosecutor Nicholas McClelland regarding the Professor Turco report. This is the professor who at some point prepared some sort of a report as to whether or not there was evidence of Odinism at the crime scene.
Next one is Beaudette's communications with Angela Sadlowski, although they spell her name Sadowski. The number 7 on the list is Beaudette's YouTube episode, read Delphi Investigation.
I'm not sure what that means.
That sounds, I mean, he does a lot of episodes on this.
He does a lot of episodes on the Delphi Investigation. What's next?
Beaudette's communications, re court staff revelations. Don't know what court staff revelations means.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that. I'm not sure if too many people have been on the edge of their seats about what's happening with the court staff. Maybe I'm wrong.
9, Beaudette's communications re disqualification of defense counsel. Maybe he was speculating about that before it happened, and they're saying, well, he must have known that that's what they were doing because he was talking to Nick. I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah, Mr. Beaudette seems to be a crucial figure in this.
He is the lightning rod that has developed mostly through, I think, his own bragging about, you know, his involvement in this case. The lightning rod that is basically, look, Nick McClelland was talking to this guy, and this guy was spreading all this stuff around. So isn't that basically the same thing as what Baldwin did with Westerman?
Yes.
That's
what it is. And so this is a creation, the situation in this list. It seems to be the hearing is going to involve a situation created by Mr. Beaudette and his loose lips.
This episode is sponsored by AutoTrader. Credit scores, down payments, interest rates. Car buying can be a numbers game, but you don't have to be a math expert to get the keys to your dream car. Just use Kelley Blue Book My Wallet on AutoTrader. Crunch your numbers and get your personalized results so you know exactly how much you'll pay each month for your car. It's like having a magic wand for your wallet. Presto, the car you've been wanting is now within reach. So hit the road and leave your calculator at home. Find your next car on autotrader.com.
Welcome to another round of Drawing Board or Miro Board. Today we discuss technical diagramming with systems architect Maya. Let's go. First question. You've spent 10 hours slogging over a sequence diagram that should have taken 5. Drawing board or Miro board?
Drawing board. And if I'm being honest, Miro would probably cut that time down by half. You know, with its AI tools and ready-to-go templates.
Next, your diagrams become so bulky, it's more complex than the solar system. But all it takes is a few clicks and...
It's Miro. I've used those technical shape packs way too many times.
Now, the final question. Everyone's brought in, but you have to make all these tasks all the way over in Jira. But wait, it's done. Is it...
Miro, easy with its two-way Jira sync. Easy to plot dependencies. Everyone always knows what's up.
And she's done it.
For a limited time, visit Miro.com/diagram now and get a free business plan trial to unlock even more features like advanced shapes, dependency mapping, and two-way Jira syncing. Get started today at Miro.com/diagram now.
Let me see what's next.
Next is unfortunately getting into a sad topic.
Beaudette's communication, disqualification of defense counsel.
Yeah.
I know you just mentioned that. I seem to recall seeing screenshots somewhere where he seemed to indicate that he had advanced knowledge of that.
Okay.
But I can tell our audience that was very much in the wind. I think a lot of people were picking up.
We
on
were
those
hearing that from people who had nothing to do with the case who were just speculating, like, we think this may happen. I mean, and to give you a sense, there's a difference between going and getting information where somebody's saying, I know what Judge Gull's going to do because she told me at dinner and now I'm telling you, and versus, hey, I'm a lawyer. I kind of know how things like this work. It's a weird situation, but she very well may throw them off the case. Like those are different things. And so we try when we're reporting and doing the show to kind of like differentiate between what we know because we know we have sources in the case or because we have some information from the case or documents from the case versus what people who are experts are saying.
Now, we all know that Mitch Westerman supplied the pictures to an individual we've identified as R. R then shared them with Mark Cohen and so on. R subsequently committed suicide, and we have declined to identify him by name. And with that said, what's the next item?
Documentation of the relationship between Beaudette, R, and Cohen. So that's interesting.
This is suggesting that Mr. Beaudette had some sort of a relationship with R.
Yeah, I mean, like, what exactly the nature of that is, we don't know. It's you know, it definitely gets more at the heart of the leak issue, though.
Beaudette sending defense work product to McClelland. So, first of all, if this is true, and Mr. Beaudette had accessed defense work product, the first question is, how did Mr. Beaudette access defense work product?
Because it leaked from the defense?
The individuals who have a responsibility to safeguard and protect defense work product is the defense team.
So they admitting to more leaks here?
I don't know. I don't know what they're saying about how Mr. Beaudette got that. But if Mr. Beaudette, leaving aside that, if he sends something to McClelland, I don't see how that is McClelland's fault.
No. I mean, that's like being upset with law enforcement in this case over like somebody sending in a tip a bunch of times. Like they were in contact with you. Well, they were giving a tip. That's not really the slam dunk I think they might want it to be. But maybe there's stuff in there that looks bad. I don't know.
The next one is Beaudette sending information to McClelland.
No, he's posting about sending information to McClelland.
I'm looking at number 12.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm skipping ahead to 14. Let's go back to 12.
12. Beaudette sending information to McClelland.
That's very vague. This list is very strangely organized, I feel.
That's very vague. I have no doubt that Mr. Beaudette sent information to Prosecutor McClelland. I don't know if that information was sought by Mr. McClelland. My suspicion is that it was not, and my suspicion is that it either was of very little value or information McClelland already had available to him.
One thing that's been interesting, maybe at times disturbing in this case, is you have, again, people who are unaffiliated, people like Beaudette, Sadlowski, Mannion, Parsons, who have no connection to the case, but who have decided that for one reason or another, they're very much invested in one side winning, and that one side desperately needs their help personally. And so it's just been interesting. It kind of like, it's like an ego sating. Like, I'm the only one who can help here because like, I'm just so invested. It's just bizarre to me. Do these people have jobs? Like, I don't even know.
The next one is Beaudette identifying source in Delphi investigation.
What does that even mean?
Well, I can speculate. I know at different times, Mr. Beaudette seemed very interested in communications with us as to trying to identify various witnesses.
Oh, he did. Yes. Yeah, that was bizarre. And we were always kind of like, okay, no, bye.
It seems odd. There's no real benefit from YouTubers knowing the names of witnesses in criminal cases prior to a trial.
No,
that doesn't really
isn't.
serve anything except possibly intimidate and harass witnesses. So I don't know if that's what.
Well, that's what YouTubers want. So
I don't know if that's what is being referred to here or not.
Yeah, he was constantly asking us, "Oh, can I give you initials?" And it was like, I mean, again, we're polite via text, and we're not going to be like buzz off usually. But it was just like, why? Like, what's the benefit? I think we even said that at one point. Like, we're not really comfortable.
And obviously, Prosecutor McClelland knows the identity of the witnesses, so I'm not sure what he.
Yeah, well, it's just about knowing. It's about like knowing yourself and then having clout over other people. I mean, it's just completely selfish.
And now we can finally get to number 14.
Now we're at where I thought we were. Beaudette posting resending information to McClelland. So that seems to be him publicly telling people, I'm sending information to McClelland. So it's like more confirmation that there's some kind of contact there.
Yes.
15, Beaudette posting redigging dirt on Baldwin. Ooh. So now we're getting into, him functioning sort of as the Sadlowski, Parsons, Mannion of the prosecution, because that's what they were.
Sadlowski tried to get dirt on McClelland.
Right.
Beaudette is trying to get dirt on Baldwin. And ultimately, this trial is not about the character or lack thereof of the attorneys. Ultimately, the trial is about the evidence. And is there evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Richard Allen murdered 2 girls? That's what the trial is about.
But where's the fun in that for a bunch of people who are bored out of their minds and spending time working out their anger on the internet? Where's the fun in that? Then they can't participate. Then it's not a contact sport for them.
It's personal lives or alleged dirt on attorneys is irrelevant unless for some reason you can establish that some personal failing from an attorney is affecting the quality of their work.
But how does it involve these people then? Because, I mean, we really need to remember this case is all about a bunch of grown adults from out of state who have no business being involved in this. It's about their needs and making sure that they feel pretty special.
Beaudette posting regarding working with law enforcement and prosecution. Again, I have no doubt that he made those claims. The question is, how true are those claims? And if Mr. Beaudette exaggerated those claims, as I strongly suspect he did, I would encourage him to come forward and admit that.
Now, this one definitely
confusingly worded.
Like much of this filing, frankly. I think this feels like David Hennessy wrote this in a while he was running out to get a bus or something. So 17 is Beaudette email of McClelland asking Beaudette to delete everything. So I'm guessing that is an email from McClelland to Beaudette asking him to delete everything. Is that how you read that? Or is that is that Beaudette emailing McClelland to delete everything?
So I don't know. I'm going to speculate. That's what we're doing here. So please don't take this.
Yeah, this is not inside information, folks.
Is anything other than me speculating. I recall at the time of the leak and immediately after the leak, everybody who received information from the leak, the crime scene pictures in particular, were urged by law enforcement to delete what they had. So if there's an email from McClelland telling Beaudette to delete things, if that email was around the time of the leak of photos, I would wonder if McClelland was telling Mr. Beaudette to delete the photos.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about that. But certainly the way it's phrased here, it certainly seems more poised to be like, delete everything. The defense is onto us. They know I've been leaking to you. Shut it down, Gary.
What's next?
This one, we now shift away from Gary Beaudette and the saga of, the perils of bragging about your connections with people on the internet. And we're now on to Barbara McDonald of Court TV. And they're saying, so it's Barbara McDonald on Court TV with leaked investigation information. McClelland email to defense Professor Turco report. That may be there by accident, that second part, because I think we already had that. But there's been a lot of chatter about Barbara McDonald has this report. This could only be gotten from a leak. That means that the prosecution or law enforcement must be leaking. So to me, when we've seen people talk about specific things like her drawings of the F tree, which, frankly, the accuracy of that is sort of in question, to be honest. I'm not a very visual person. So, to me, it looks different, but some people say it looks similar. But either way, that and her drawings of the stick positioning on the bodies, there's did she get that while the case was ongoing and sealed? Or was it just reported now, but she got it months or years ago and has been waiting? It's unclear. And obviously she's not going to tell us. So it's kind of hard to say that must be a leak as defined by Richard Allen has been arrested and the case is sealed and there's a protective order on all the evidence. It's difficult to say.
Number 19, leaked search warrant affidavit prior to unsealing.
Okay, so what is that?
The implication would be that the search warrant for Richard Allen's house was leaked to someone prior to it being unsealed.
Who got that? Did we know about that at the time, that there was possibly a leak of that?
This is the first time hearing.
I've never heard of that before. I'd be curious about where they got it, and they're not even attributing it to anybody in particular, so I'd be curious.
20. Sergeant Holman's communications with Teri Williams and or secret keeper.
Jesus.
YouTubers Frank Meister and Sleuth Video YouTube The Inquisitor True Crime claiming leaked information from Rich Allen. So more YouTubers claiming leaked information. I think it's worth noting that it is very easy for people on YouTube to get in front of their computer cameras and say, I have a source in law enforcement leaking me things. Doesn't mean it's true.
People are telling lies on the internet? Wow.
I would be curious, did any of these people claiming to have leaked information, did they on their YouTube channels use accurate information that was leaked to them prior to public release? If so, then maybe you have something.
Agreed. The next one is Teri Williams, aka Secret Keeper, posting about inside information of crime scene and of the investigation. So one thing that's important to note with the crime scene is that there's been basically speculation about every possibility of the crime scene since day one. People have guessed knife. People have guessed, the manner of death that the girls, that what they actually died from. People have guessed all sorts of things. They've also made up stuff. We literally had to sit on the phone for an hour with a woman who once just told us lie after lie about how there were dolls at the scene. And sometimes I want to email her and just be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why did you do that? What is wrong with you that you're just making crap up about the murder of 2 kids? What is wrong with you? But anyways, I'm just saying that, like, I guess if somebody have had some insights or it's hard for me to differentiate, like, somebody who has insights and somebody who just kind of, like, pieces things together based on, like, looking at the media and then maybe deducing it about how things happened. The differentiator is how detailed is the information that this person has. How good of a guesser were they, or does it speak to something that's not just guesswork and is actually inside knowledge?
This next item might be actual inside knowledge.
Yes.
October 22nd, 2022, YouTube video of Mr. Beaudette discussing his knowledge of a bullet at crime scene and knowledge that a gun was found at Rick Allen's house when that information was still under seal and a week before unsealed.
Now that certainly seems more like a problem for the prosecution, because what they're saying here is this guy has it, here's the date, and here's when this should have been known by everyone. So it's much before that.
And we know this guy was in communication with McClellan.
So that's where you have the perils, I think, from a law enforcement or a prosecutorial perspective. And as we've talked about it, because there's some risk for the defense too, is talking to people like this who don't really have, like, any sort of, like, credibility or, like, reason to be into this case other than they're kind of just, like, leering at it on YouTube. The danger of that is then you get into a situation like this where even if your conversations with them are relatively innocuous, if they get something real and run with it, then it's going to very much look like you leaked it.
Email exchange between Judge Gull and Attorney Rosie accidentally misdirected email. I assume this is a reference to the Brandon Woodhouse incident.
Yep.
Baldwin's email to Judge Gull on 10/9/23. Don't know what that's about. List of media dissemination by state actors. I guess that's saying that people from the state intentionally disseminated information to the media.
I mean, in the past, they gave interviews, right? I mean, like, but the issue is when does the gag order and when does the protective orders come down?
Number 25 is Julie Melvin documents. Who knows what that means? Probably not much.
No.
And 26, YouTube video titled A Reckoning in Carroll County. There's also a list of potential exhibits, and I will read this, and then let's see if we can wrap this up. On or about February 29, 2024 and March 1, 2024, the defense received an anonymous call from a woman in Texas claiming to have approximately 240 pages of leaked documents and agreed to provide them. The defense has received only a few of those documents, all of which appear to be available to the public.
Oh, man.
The defense also discovered information from the prof, claiming he had delivered 2 pounds of documents to the Indiana Attorney General. The defense is continuing to investigate that claim, which may result in additional exhibits, or presumably it may not.
2 pounds, dang. Weighing the documents, not saying page count, but poundage. That is really... Yeah, I think Hennessy's living through our pain right now because we've also had to deal with a bunch of lying idiots online who just will say whatever. And then when you try to run it down or get them to give you what they're claiming to have,
nothing happens.
Nothing happens. It's almost like people are lying for attention. Wow. Who knew?
I think we need to wrap this up. Any parting thoughts?
Well, yeah, I have parting thoughts. I think that the proliferation of especially YouTube, but let's be honest, I mean, like, just general, like, not new media attention on this case has been damaging for both the defense and, if any of this checks out, possibly the prosecution as well. Because to me, it's like you have just people who are just not equipped to do this, insert themselves in and, like, claim legitimacy. And honestly, I used to kind of be excited about stuff like this because I was like, oh, wow, YouTube and social media, it's like democratizing the media. We can all be citizen journalists. No, that's not true. I mean, most people are just not equipped because they don't have, any sort of backing or emotional fortitude to do this work in at all a responsible way. So I kind of feel like all of this speaks to, and everybody misses this, but if you want to talk about like social media wreaking havoc on a case, look at this and look at what these weird people are doing. I mean, it's like bad. I mean, I think it's bad for them too. I don't really feel like any of this is coming from an emotionally healthy place, frankly, but I just, it's kind of fascinating at the same time. Because you're like, what are these people getting out of it? Other than like an occasional sense of importance, but mostly a lot of stress.
And with that said, thank you for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow on an episode of Cheat Sheet we recorded earlier today.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening to the Murder Sheet. If you have a tip concerning one of the cases we cover, please email us at murdersheet@gmail.com. If you have actionable information about an unsolved crime, please report it to the appropriate authorities.
If you're interested in joining our Patreon, that's available at www.patreon.com/murdersheet. If you want to tip us a bit of money for records requests, you can do so at www.buymeacoffee.com/murdersheet. We very much appreciate any support.
Special thanks to Kevin Tyler Greenlee, who composed the music for the Murder Sheet, and who you can find on the web at kevintg.com.
If you're looking to talk with other listeners about a case we've covered, you can join the Murder Sheet discussion group on Facebook. We mostly focus our time on research and reporting, so we're not on social media much. We do try to check our email account, but we ask for patience as we often receive a lot of messages. Thanks again for listening.
Welcome to another round of Boardroom or Miro Board. Today we talk retrospectives with Agile coach Maria. Let's go. First question. You've spent 2 hours in a team retro, but the only input you've heard is Dave's. Boardroom or Miro Board?
Boardroom. In Miro, Dave can't hog the space because everyone can add thoughts anonymously, online, at the same time.
Correct. Next. You need the team to act on feedback fast, so you turn all those retro notes into Jira tasks instantly.
Miro all the way. And I can assign those tasks to teammates.
You're nailing this. Now, you see hundreds of sticky notes from the retro. A real mess. But you organize them into 5 themes in just seconds.
Miro, I basically get back an entire hour when I use its AI tools for clustering.
And she's done it.
Join over 60 million people running actually enjoyable and actionable retros in Miro. Get your first 3 boards free at Miro.com. That's Miro.com.